I went to Primark. It was about £12.
Oh, but you have an electric one, isn't that
I've
enough?
got an electric blanket, but I also need um I can't keep having the electric blanket on.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just the idea of having it. It's not about the energy, it's about constantly having to adjust the setting. Sometimes you don't actually need to get hot, you
Yeah.
just need to have something covering you up.
Yeah, and then it won't be as special.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, by the way, having an electric blanket on for 3 hours at nighttime when you go to bed, turning it on
Yeah.
for the 3 hour setting on maybe 4 out of the six level heat actually helps me go to sleep easier. I've been
Mm.
having better quality sleep with an electric blanket.
I love it. It's changed my life.
What was I saying? But anyways,
Is your voice warmed up?
it's kind of warmed up. Um, Welcome, guys, if you're listening to episode 11.
11.
Number 11. Um, Shout out to Shakira for that. I'm sure I'll find the meme for it. But
11. Number 11. I can't believe it. Amazing.
so it's fucking cold nowadays. It's freezing.
I know.
Today
I know.
wasn't that bad. Today was not that bad, but in general, I'm scared for my health, like the cold, because I'm too poor to turn my heating on every day.
I know. And think about all of the poor people on the street. Every time I see a homeless person, I walk right by, but I feel really sad as I walk right by. It's terrifying.
I don't know. I felt like the way that you said that sounded very first worldy. I don't think you care that much.
I do care. I do care. It's just I feel very helpless. Like a lot of us.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for them, of course. Yeah, that just seems like a given. That's like saying, "Oh my God, I'm hungry. What about starving
It
people?"
just it's more genuine from you. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Anyways, anyways, what is on the agenda today? I don't know you know what? I do actually want to talk about something. Last night, I got myself the free trial. It's on Amazon Prime, but free trial. I think it's called Mubi. It's like another film subscription that's within Amazon. And it was 7 day free trial. I cancelled it immediately after I finished the film, but I watched The Substance last night for the first time. Like everyone's been talking about it. And I've got to say, that is almost on the same level as The Exorcist when it comes to scary movies. It was
That's a big claim.
No, it was very, very scary. You know, the kind of movies that are so scary that has you worrying about your mental health afterwards.
Yeah, I've had a few movies like that. Um, there was one by it was recorded on an iPhone
We watched that
7.
together, actually. Watched it when we were on holiday. So it's called Unsane. It's called
Unsane.
Unsane, and it's directed by Steven Soderbergh, the guy who made Ocean's 11, 12, whatever, and also Traffic. And he did direct it all on an iPhone 7, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that precise detail, but I remember leaving the cinema worried for my sanity. And
Yeah.
no spoilers, but it's about a woman's possible descent into madness, and you're never quite sure if it's all real or not. And then you leave the cinema thinking, is anything real?
Yeah, no, it was pretty scary, but I still think that like Unsane is scary if as a woman, like I was scared more because does lean on, the book, The Gift of Fear, stalking and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas The Substance is like wow, like kind of that kind. But anyways, just to ruin it for people, if you are BDSing films as well, the director is a Zionist, but she's French. Vive la France! Vive la
Yeah.
France! But I don't know. Does it count if it's a free trial? Like I didn't pay anything for it.
I think BDS as a whole is it's not difficult. I think in this particular instance, it's up to your own personal discretion whether or not you choose to support individuals. I think her support is probably sharing something on social media. In the grand scheme of things, she's no Jamie Lee Curtis. You know how we feel about Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis is, yeah, she's the great Satan, that one. The funny thing is, I was boycotting that bitch before October the 7th. She's a terrible actress, overrated. She's only been in one good film, like I always say, A Fish Called Wanda. Everything else, she's just a very lucky Nepo baby, very lucky woman.
A shameless Nepo baby. I will never forgive her for stealing the Oscar from her co-star in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did I say that right?
Yeah, but to be fair, that whole film was terrible when you think about it. It was shit.
Controversial.
No,
Controversial.
I realize now, going back to it, people need to get over that movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once was not that great, and it just ticked a lot of boxes for the Academy. Um, I, anyways, we can talk about how much we hate Jamie Lee Curtis until the cows come home. I just hope that in California she did a lot of smoke inhalation. I hope she inhaled a lot of smoke. Anyway, The Substance. I'm sure Demi Moore's also a Zionist as well. Trigger warning, but with her, if honestly, if only these people weren't such terrible human beings. I am so happy when women who have been cast aside and just dumped by younger men, and just abandoned by society for getting older. This normally would be a great Hollywood story, her comeback, and the fact that she's still like, one thing I always liked about her was her having a good relationship with Bruce Willis even after the divorce.
Mm.
And the fact that she stands by her children despite the fact that they all look really ugly.
Yeah, you can tell she's not one of those Hollywood moms that gave their kids a complex. If anything, her kids have too much self-esteem.
Yeah, one of them I think is cute, but one of them, I'll never, you know what? I don't want to get into it. It goes against the whole purpose of the film, actually, to be fair. And
Yeah.
I have a face for radio. I'm no Cindy Crawford. By the way, Cindy Crawford's also the worst when it comes to Israel. She's actually
I think at this point we need to we need to sort of stop idolizing, not idolizing because I know you don't idolize any
I
celebrity.
don't, yeah, especially a
Uh,
model.
but I don't think we should be looking to celebrities ever for moral clarity. I think the assumption should always be that they are very surface level individuals, and there are, you know, the odd amazing individuals that come out of the machine and never really enter the machine. I can only think of like Ken Loach. I can't think of any other gold star um, filmmakers or actors that I would say, I admire you.
But you know what? There is one. I've never watched it, but you know that show Orphan Black? The one
Yeah.
where the lady plays like a million versions of herself. The actress thing, her name was Tatiana Masley.
Yes.
She actually was like, I don't know, maybe her career is going to be impacted. But anyways, enough of these celebrities. I can't stand them. I tell you who I now get my moral clarity from. We did dedicate an episode to her once, Candace Owens.
She's pivoted recently. She's now a celebrity reporter. And I, I just think she's like a professional troll.
She is, but I just wanted to say with Candace Owens, I can never ever set it in stone that I like her because she will turn on Muslims very soon. I mean, she was not that I can blame her for this. At the end of the day, the killer was the one that's responsible, but I'm pretty sure the New Zealand Christchurch killer, like she inspired that manifesto. So as a Muslim, I do think we need to take it with a pinch of salt. But her videos lately have been cracking me up. Her biggest theories have been the new one that she's jumped onto is the Blake Lively. Ryan Reynolds apparently is a mentally unwell, unhinged lunatic who is, practicing coercive control on Blake Lively. That I do believe. Um, the other two theories was Kamala Harris is not black and she lied about her ancestry. That one is actually quite credible. And then the other one is the Emmanuel Macron, a Bridget Macron one. That one is she's been named in a lawsuit. I'm like, you're ahead of it. Is it a G7 or a G8 country? Like, why are
G7.
you ahead of a country, ahead of state, and you're out here putting Candace Owens like in your like, I don't know, what do they call them? Affidavits or whatever, but in your legal documents. So in your lawsuit. So Candace
You know
Owens
what?
has got people.
Even though it's insane, I think her dedication to the Brigitte Macron is a secret man. Her dedication is giving me ideas that maybe this is true. Like, why else would she stake her reputation? And I know her reputation is as a lunatic, but why is she putting so much
I don't think Candace Owens is a lunatic. I think she is a suburban mom who is embracing this new part of her life. Now she's gonna have 4 children under the age of 4 now. She's pregnant with child number 4. Um, so I do think she's just found her market. And to be fair, she's just, I don't know, she's a millennial who loves gossip. She's basically the black female Perez Hilton of our time. And if you mix that in with politics, she's shown great bravery, but also principles and consistency on the genocide in Gaza. So, got to give her credit. There's plenty of respectable journalists who have absolutely not shown any decency or moral clarity on Gaza. So I look at it and I go, some of it's got to do with snobbery, the fact that people are just being snobs against her. Um, but anyways, back to actually, I did want to go back to the substance, actually.
Mm.
Um, one of the best films that I've seen in a really long time. You can watch it on a free trial. You don't have to pay for it. You definitely don't need to go to the cinema to buy a ticket or anything like that. Um, the Oscars. So Demi Moore is nominated for Best Actress, and the film's been nominated, but Margaret Qualley, she wasn't nominated. I believe that that is actually she was great in there in the film, but I don't think it's a big snub or a big surprise. My biggest thing that I'm very happy about is that Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't nominated this year. I know I'm gonna keep going back to her, and also
We are
Pamela.
launching a jihad against Jamie Lee Curtis.
Hey, MI5, if you're watching this, she said launching yeehaw against. But no, so Jamie Lee Curtis for some stupid movie about showgirls like wasn't nominated. Very happy Selena Gomez wasn't nominated
Thank
for Emilia
goodness.
Perez, which looks like a fucking weird shitstorm. Like that movie just looks it's hated by Mexicans. And you know a film is bad when the country that they're portraying, that the citizens of that country, the people who live there, reject the film.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
being shown in Mexico.
could you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
It's not being showed in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, the people hate it. I'm also happy that Pamela Anderson wasn't nominated. I kind of feel like with her, it's I don't know, I can't stand these stupid sob stories about I'm like I don't know how to explain it. But with Pamela Anderson, there tends to be this weird thing where it's like we as a society failed her, all the bad stuff. I'm like, I didn't do shit to her. I don't care about her.
That was before our time.
No,
And
but also you're not promised an award nomination just because you had a great campaign story,
yeah,
not wearing makeup and all that shit. And I'm just like, I don't care.
yeah. There was a lot of gendered violence done to her. There was a lot of misogyny that sort of marked her whole career. And then she reclaimed her own narrative. Good for her. Good for her. But her performance obviously didn't warrant a nomination. And that's fine too. But she was very gracious about it. She made a statement basically saying that the performance, the ability to perform was the award for her, which I like to hear. I like to hear humility. There
Yeah,
was no saltiness there.
kind of just, I mean, yeah, that's what you're supposed to say at the end of the day. She wasn't going to say what the fuck. Um, Who else is? I'm very happy that Guy Pearce has been nominated for The Brutalist. So I haven't had time to watch The Brutalist. It looks like a really long movie, but for me, I'm just happy that he's been nominated because he's been incredibly brave and public and unashamed for a long time when it comes to pro-Palestine stuff. I'm pretty sure that Vanity Fair, they edited out he was wearing a badge with the Palestine flag at an event, and Vanity Fair, they did blur it out or they edited
Mhm.
out the whole thing. So I'm just very happy for him. He's always seemed like a really good guy. And I'm just happy that he's been nominated and he hasn't been punished for his activism because he's been, I'd say, one of the brave ones. Who else are you happy for that's been nominated? Oh, wait, Ariana Grande. Like, what the fuck? I
Yeah.
watched Wicked. No, I'm unhappy. You don't get to steal someone's husband and get rewarded for it like that.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that she was nominated because by all accounts it wasn't a remarkable performance. That's another one. To be honest with you, I think for both you and I, we haven't watched a lot of films this year because it's been a pretty depressing year. Cinemas just aren't really doing it for me in general. Um, so yeah, there wasn't really any performances that I was like, yes, that was a good performance, deserves to be Oscar nominated because I haven't seen a lot. Um, But one movie which I haven't seen, but I've heard amazing things about, like all the other ones that I've heard of, is No Other Land, which was the documentary produced by an Israeli director alongside a Palestinian, just talking about the apartheid, which remarkably for an Oscar-nominated movie hasn't found a distributor in the United States. I wonder why.
Yeah, the guy, is it Yuval Abraham? He's the Israeli director. He's quite questionable. He was actually regurgitating the myth of H group committing mass SA, sexual
Mhm.
assault, on October the 7th. So he's a bit of a dodgy one. I remember though when they won is it the Golden Bear or the Silver Bear at the Berlin Film Festival?
Yeah.
And he accepted the award alongside, I think, Basil, the Palestinian film director, and this Green Party in Germany, politician, was seen clapping for them,
Mm,
and she ended up getting like dragged through the mud. And this fucking bitch, I forgot her name, but the Green Party German politician, she said, no, 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 I wasn't clapping for Hamas. I was only clapping for the Israeli film director, not the Palestinian. That was her defense. So yeah, no, I hope, or I just hope that they win,
mm,
because there needs to be another moment at this year's Academy Awards, like last year with Jonathan Glazer. It needs to be mentioned, and I worry that this year no one's going to mention Palestine at the Oscars, because
mm.
it does bring in lots of numbers, so it's a good opportunity for more people to hear about it and to make as many Hollywood people as uncomfortable as possible on the
Yeah.
night, because they don't get to have these moments where they wear their, glittery dresses whilst there are 2.3 million people
Mm,
living in hell on earth right now, based on their government and their taxes. So yeah, I do hope that No Other Land wins, but that's just so we can hear more about Palestine at the Oscars, and so we can see the camera cut to well, it won't cut to Jamie Lee Curtis, even though we hate her.
she won't be there.
She won't be
Um,
there.
I think Hollywood is incredibly cowardly, even outside of the Palestine issue, which is, of course, like a very tough topic to discuss about because of the extent of propaganda by a lot of Zionists in across multiple industries. But I remember 2003, the Oscars. I was old enough to remember the people that booed Michael Moore. I think it was only like Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins, like the only two left-wing actors in the audience or in Hollywood that gave him his respect. The only activism that I've seen was to kowtow to the government at the time.
Yeah, it was very lots of like 9/11 kind of stuff around that era, post 9/11, very recent. But yeah, they actually booed Michael Moore at the Academy Awards when he won, I think, for Bowling for Columbine. And what I find interesting was I'm pretty sure that year they gave a standing ovation. He wasn't even in the country because he's a fucking convicted rapist, but they gave a standing ovation to Roman Polanski when he won for The Pianist. So you're going to give a standing ovation to a child rapist, but you're going to boo Michael Moore for being anti-war and speaking out against George Bush at the time. So that tells you everything about Hollywood. I don't know why I still pay attention to who's nominated for the Academy Awards. I feel like it's I don't know, some kind of pathetic addiction at this point, but I don't even watch too many films anymore. But that's one thing I actually wanted to talk about though, is this year I do want to get into watching more films again, because you're aware of this, but I suffer from a lot of maladaptive daydreaming. And I do want to kind of cleanse my mind from that a little bit. I'm scared, to be fair, though, that the maladaptive daydreaming might get strengthened by watching too many films. But at the same time, I do just want to live with someone else's imagination for a bit instead of only working over my imagination is working overtime at the moment. And just a bit of news. I told you about this. I'm not gonna like give the story away just yet, but I have been thinking like this year I do want to start working on a screenplay just so I can put my imagination to use a little bit. Journaling is good. I've been painting a little bit just to put my imagination somewhere else, but that's definitely something that I do want to do this year, is to get at least get started on the screenplay. These things take years to write. And there aren't too many Somali people doing this, so it's always good for the sake of hashtag representation to do that. But yeah, that's something I do want to do in terms of like my creativity. I recently got a data camp subscription. So I also want to get into data analysis a little bit, just starting with Python. I noticed, you know, that actress Lily Gladstone, the one, she's the
Yes.
indigenous one. She actually was training to be a data analyst before she got the call from Martin Scorsese, the email that she got offered a part in Killers of the Flower Moon. So it's quite, I love hearing those kind of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
There was a meme that I remember seeing around about that time when I heard that, where it's like, you know, you've reached rock bottom when you're enrolling onto a data analytics boot camp.
and I have hit rock bottom, to be fair. So yeah. Oh gosh, it's been a long I'd say it's been a very interesting start to 2025. All I'm seeing right now on Twitter is just negativity.
Hmm.
A lot of that. I saw that the columnist, Peter Hitchens, he is a fucking professional troll, that guy, because he was recently, he published a column yesterday about the disgusting monster Axel Rudakabana, the the Welsh, sorry, the Welsh Rwandan guy. No, Welsh.
We're laughing because of the extent of the racism towards not Axel Rudakabana, but all black people, all black Britons, where it's like they constantly bring up his picture and ask, "Does he look Welsh to you?" And it's
He
getting to the
looks
point
like
now. It's getting to the point now
he
where I'm worried we're going to
Do
get
you know
linked.
what though? Can I say something? I normally do not judge on appearance, but his mugshot is probably the scariest mugshot I have ever seen in my entire life.
It does
That
scare me.
is where the physiognomy really checks like in because it checks out because he looks, I'm sorry, like a monster.
He does, and I am really curious as to why he keeps on hiding his mouth. There's a lot of questions about Axel, the whole Southport killing, the trial. But I was talking to you about this yesterday because I was doing some reading into it, just because I really want to know why he was able to kill. That question, I know a lot of right wingers are asking it, but genuinely, he was flagged from the age of 13 and he committed the murders at the age of 17. So that was a good 4 years of him doing things like bringing a knife to school. He literally called Childline and asked them, what should I do if I want to kill somebody?
Yeah, no, everything was a red flag with him. I
And
do feel like do you know what? Obviously, first and foremost, looking at it's, I'll be honest with you, it did make me feel very, very like sad, what he did to the three young girls and also injured so many others. And God bless the dance coach. She
mm,
was honestly, she's got a lot of survivor's guilt, but she did so much to prevent him from killing more people. And there's not enough brave people like that out there anymore. And also, there was another young man who stopped Axel Rudakabana from doing more harm. Um, I feel like the
there's
internet,
always heroes in those moments because I remember Dunblane as well. You probably won't remember that. The shooting that happened in Scotland, which ended up.
I know it's I think the Andy Murray went to that school. I'm you're not that older than me, but
But yeah, there were teachers, you know, literally putting their bodies on the line, and were killed as a result of the shooter. Um, yeah, teachers, caregivers, all of them, and just the random people on the street who were looking out, probably prevented him from killing more than three. But yeah,
I think though, honestly, I don't care how reactionary this sounds. Some like I don't I feel like some people are saying prison is actually like the fact that he has 52 years is actually a good enough punishment because he's going to be rotting away and
mm.
living with that for the rest of his life. But I just feel like his existence makes me sick. Like I kind of it's one of those things that really tests how repulsed you can be by another human being.
Mm.
And I think with him, he's just so happy that he did that, and he'll never ever be able to do something like that again to children. But I don't know, like he makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. I don't want to be confused as to having any sympathy for him, but I do want to go back to the fact that he displayed signs of mental illness at a very early age, from the age of 13. You know, this is not normal behavior for children to have images, especially as a Rwandan, of images of genocide on his phone and on his laptop. He was obsessed with violence. He was obsessed with Schmarzi Germany. I don't know why I'm saying it like TikTok, Nazi Germany, and pictures of knives, and he was even making ricin in his room, downloading the AQ manual, which is something that the right wing have latched onto, ignoring the fact that it was, you know, also, you know, Nazi Germany and other violent cults that he was obsessed with. But obviously, for propaganda reasons, they're obsessed with the idea that he could potentially be part of a Muslim terror group, which isn't the case, obviously. And luckily, the judge corroborated that. But I do want to know why he became like that. What happened to him? And then you mentioned something quite relevant yesterday when I was talking to you about it. What happened 4 years ago?
COVID. So yeah, we've always spoken about how a lot of young men have become completely feral because of lockdown, and how dangerous things have become for women and girls, for females
Yeah.
since lockdown.
When mentally ill men, or men that are likely to become mentally ill, become even more isolated, um, danger arises. I've told you, and you've told me, cases of where men have been exceptionally creepy in public to us since 2020. But I think something happened in lockdown. People spent more time online, became more isolated, joined forums that they might not have found, and have become radicalized. And this is, luckily, the government are doing one right thing, which is they are going to be looking at incels as a potential category of terrorists, because that's what they are.
Mm. Yeah, I don't really trust the Labour Party to do anything effectively. They're pretty effective at making things worse. So that's all I can really trust them with. But I just feel like if Rachel Reeves right now is probably thinking, how much is that going to cost? Like saving a little girl's life. She's thinking, oh, well, that's not what I learned when I was budgeting at home when I was a kid. That's not what I would have spent my piggyback money on. I really do not like Rachel Reeves. She actually makes me sick. She's the reason why I do not believe in women in leadership roles. I'm joking. She's terrible. She's got a fucking evil bob haircut as
She
well.
looks like a character in Wallace and Gromit.
And she sounds like one. Actually, no, Keir Starmer sounds like one. But yeah, so with the stuff with the Southport killer, I don't even want to say his name anymore. There's been a lot about how, obviously, I joked at the beginning when I called him a Welshman, because that's the whole theme of it is, personally, I don't see any, it obviously depends on where people are coming from. And a lot of the time it does mean, that they're saying if you're black or brown, you can't identify as the country that you were born in or whatever. That
Well,
whole
we're not
thing.
English.
That's what I mean. That's why I was saying, I'm looking at it and going, listen, we we should always defend our legal rights and our legal standing in this country, equality, making sure that we're not discriminated against. But I just feel like, there's nothing wrong with a hyphen, calling yourself British Somali. What's wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong with a hyphen? Because also, I understand, like, I do not identify as English. England is the country that I live in. I do not identify as English. There's obviously certain, like, it can hurt sometimes if someone else tells you, because you're thinking more about the fact that they're saying it to exclude you. But at the end of the day, I call myself, like, I'm a fat person, but if someone else calls me fat, then it hurts. Do you know what I mean? So well, what I'm trying to get at is, I don't know. I
I know
feel
what
like,
you're trying to say. It's to be English is to exclude naturally. It's England is at the center of empire. There's a reason why Welsh people aren't considered English because they're not Welsh. They're not English. They are Welsh. It's not a civic identity. I see things in terms of civic and tribal identities. There is a tribal identity called English. It's if you're English, it feels comfortable. If you're not, it does feel a little bit intimidating. No one who is darker than a manila envelope feels comfortable walking beside an estate with loads of England flags flying. No one.
Okay, Emily Thornberry, relax. Do you know what? Like, I think we did. I think also our upbringing has a lot to do with it. There's been a lot of white flight in the area that we grew up in, but there were
Yeah.
some areas that were ironically no-go zones for us. Areas where we've had relatives being beaten to a
Yeah.
pulp.
Yeah, one was almost blinded
Yeah,
by
exactly.
locals who attended a pub that flew the England flag.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is I have no desire to call myself English, but being British is not about a desire. It just is that way. Like whether you like it or not, we are British.
Because it's
That's
a
just
civic identity.
because it's a
It
civic
is
identity.
it
And
is based on values.
also the way that I see it is if I'm abroad, I'm gonna have more in common with another British person. Like based on that, I feel like I'm more likely to help them as well because than like a Canadian or something, because I'll just know we're going back to the same place at the end of the day. And it's the only like land that we've ever known. So yeah, I
And
definitely
I do get nationalistic in odd times. Obviously, when it comes to defending British food, there's been a lot of that on social media
yeah, African
recently.
Americans, I'm sorry, but you lot with your fucking high sodium levels and your Old Bay seasoning and the fact that you're so performative about cleaning your chicken in the sink with washing up detergent. I just look at that and I just feel like they have a low self-esteem and their obsession with Black British people is creepy. I'm like, it's similar to Black South Africans and their xenophobia. I'm like, focus on the white people oppressing you in your country and fucking leave the rest of us alone. Um, I do not want this bit clipped for social media because for obvious reasons, but they
I was literally thinking, I'm not posting this on Instagram.
you're not posting this on Instagram. So no, but they're just like, listen, anyone who listens,
They're becoming extremely bothersome and
we can't even call them African Americans anymore. Let's call them foundational Black Americans because they're the ones who like built. I'm like, okay, then I get that. But can you guys just stop being so fucking annoying? Like, I'm just like, whatever. I get that some of you guys are pressed that there are lots of Black British actors who do the same generic African American accent and they take all of the film jobs. I get that but you can't hold on to Denzel Washington forever. You need to come up with something else, bring us a new one because his son is not a good actor.
yeah. No, we're losing a lot of great um African American actors because the younger generation are annoying.
Yeah. So yeah, they're too busy talking about Black British people online. Gosh, so yeah, so a lot of the stuff has been, yeah, as I was saying, Peter Hitchens, he wrote a column about Axel Rudikabana, and
Mm,
lo and behold, he still managed to blame it on marijuana. I'm like, how does Peter
interesting.
Hitchens manage to make everything about his hatred of drugs? He cracks me up.
So was Axel a pothead?
No, he's just
Oh.
nuts. Like Peter Hitchens is actually crazy. He just really is he just needs to bring it back to his hatred of drugs and I I just feel like the fact that he's done a whole crusade in defense of Lucy Letby, the notorious baby killer, and
Mm.
Peter Hitchens genuinely believes that Lucy Letby is innocent. At
Let's
least
let's
he's
say
con
some
no,
oh,
but at least he's consistent. Like,
yeah.
at least he's consistent with this with two child killers. So, you can
Saying the
call
same.
Peter Hitchens a lot of things, but he's not a racist, I don't believe. I think he's just a contrarian.
No, he's a foul human being, but I wouldn't say racism is the reason why he's foul. But yeah, I wanted to now that you mentioned Lucy Letby, let's compare the responses to Lucy Letby
Mhm.
and Axel Rudikabana because I was reading a lot on social media about the responses to the trial. Obviously, I agree, 52 years is not enough for 3 babies being brutally murdered, and the details were horrific. The right-wing media are obviously trying to exploit this to drive hate towards multiculturalism. You know, their latest phrase that they love to bring up is diversity is our greatest strength. So that's kind of like red to the bull. But Lucy Letby is an interesting comparison because she obviously killed many innocent babies, preemies, the most vulnerable children that you can imagine. And Axel did similar in a brutal fashion. But the responses to how their trials went down is interesting because you have your Lucy Letby truthers who are like Peter Hitchens, maybe delusional, some of them outright nuts. And then on the other side with Axel Rudikabana, you have people calling for his father to be deported, even though his father reported him to the authorities multiple times. Even the week before he reported him to the police, he was already under the radar prevent. His
Just
brother is in a...
to interrupt you a little bit, I do believe we should leave his brother alone. The
I
story
know,
about
yeah.
his brother, the wheelchair. I'm like British people, English people, and their obsession with, oh my goodness, he got a free wheelchair. But
His
I
brother
just
is in
want
a
to,
wheelchair because he has...
I do want to say though, when you bring a child into the world, you do have a responsibility to really throw the hammer down and nip things in the bud. I know that I'm just playing devil's advocate here, just to say that parents do have a responsibility to basically, even if it means, I know this is going to sound really unhinged, but even if it means running out onto the street and saying, my son is going to kill someone, my son, even if it requires embarrassing yourself, even if it requires the whole better safe than sorry approach, I do believe that the parents are somewhat responsible, not when it comes to collective punishment. I do not believe that the parents should not be in a, in a litigiously harassed or anything like that. And they do have the right to privacy, and they have the right to, in a fair society, you do not punish someone for another human being's crimes. That is what makes society civilized. And obviously, if you look at the genocide that's happening in Gaza, you can see that collective punishment is one of the most evil things that you can do. But I do not believe in the concept of like parents having no responsibility when it comes to their evil child and girl hating sons. And that goes for both the mother and the father here. And I do think, obviously, it's very easy for me to judge, but I'm looking at this and thinking, well, if human beings can't judge, why do we have brains? Why do we have critical thinking skills? I'm just looking at that and saying, you do have a responsibility to shout from the rooftops, even in the most honestly, even if it's the most exhibitionist thing ever, to just, we don't know the full details yet, but and that also does include the full details of just how much the dad did to intervene. The odd phone call here and there, I'm sorry, but we're going to need to hear a little bit more than that. But I just want to reiterate and make it very clear that collective punishment is bad, and civilized societies do not punish people for punish family members for someone evil's crimes, because don't do that. Like you don't know until it happens to you, basically. So, but I do think that my sympathy is capped a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe it's like I said, it goes back to the politics of revulsion when someone commits the most evil crime possible against children. I mean, remember, we're judging, if we're bringing this back to politics, I judge all of Israeli society for
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
remember, I'm
There's
judging
a
all of them.
complicity there.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, and in hindsight, his father and his mother are probably thinking, they're definitely thinking that. But I think this is a failure of the authorities more so than anything, because the father called the police when he flipped out at being denied access to his computer. Again, the computer being the source of all evil, in my opinion. I'm like Peter Hitchens when it comes to young men and the internet. I think it's a new crack. It's a new way of destroying their minds. And I think any parent who gives their children under the age of, say, 15, unrestricted access to the internet, I think that's tantamount to child abuse. But anyway, rant over. Yeah, his dad called the police when that happened. The agencies were involved. So something like CAMS, the mental health authorities. And they basically said, we're assessing him. It's an early stage intervention. We're checking his emotional well-being and behaviors. Meanwhile, he's kicking up cars, bringing a knife to school, that he was expelled from. So like there was definitely no reason for him to have a knife.
I'll say one
Nothing was
thing.
done.
I'll say one thing. Don't you find it funny that people are trying to blame Amazon though? 'Cause
Why?
they're like, he ordered the knife on Amazon, which there's a lot of the hashtag FBPE, the EU Remainers, them kind of people are the ones saying, oh my God, then this is Jeff Bezos's fault. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you saying to help right now? Like, they're actually making things worse when they say shit like that. I'm like,
Anything but to avoid the structural failures of the state.
yeah, no,
That's
that
their
cracked me
approach.
up when they were blaming Amazon for that's where he ordered the knife. Talking of like teenagers and the internet though, I don't know his name, but there's bloody hell, the school shooting thing. Black people we've DEI'd that as well because there's now a black high school shooter and he was a self-identified, I don't even want to say the word, but it's the N-word cell instead of
Yes,
incel, it's N-word
yes,
cell.
yes. So he was in Nashville and he was inspired by Hitler.
Sorry. What's his name? Like, let's give the context here. What something happened in America? Like, what happened?
Okay, so a 17-year-old in Nashville came to school and shot, I think, three fellow students. I forgot what his name was, something Henderson. Um, and his inspirations were Hitler and Candace Owens.
And this is always catching strays when it comes to these mass shootings.
It's always Candace.
Um, yeah.
And his social media, again, young men shouldn't be allowed on social media unrestricted. His Instagram bio said the last remaining Rhodesian. Rhodesian, if you don't know, are the Afrikaners of Zimbabwe when it was white ruled. He is a black man. He's a black young man. He is unambiguously black.
Didn't he kill himself?
Yes. He killed himself. So he killed two students and then himself. And his manifesto was just deranged, obsessed with Nazis and Hitler and how he was ashamed to be black and that a good N word is a dead N word. So he thought that he was self-cleansing. Yeah, it was bizarre. It was bizarre.
What you just said right now about a good N-word, like we should clip that bit only for social media, just so people think that you said that.
Let's just cancel ourselves. I'll cancel my.
But yeah, no, something I noticed about him is he he definitely was inspired by the Groyper movement led by Nick Fuentes, but
Now, what's a
also
Groyper movement if
Gro
you're not
Gro
online?
if you're not online, Groyper movement, they're basically American far right. It's quite a young culture. It's an online internet subculture, but the Groypers are led by the very far right young man, Nick Fuentes, and they're a mixture of Nazi, Pepe the Frog, and also America Firsters. So they're very, very America First, very, very anti-black, brown, anti-Jew, everything. But yeah, so he was definitely inspired by that. And I don't know, his manifesto, there were parts of it that were quite tongue in cheek. I think he genuinely, it's almost like there's a movie actually online called You Want Me to Kill Him? Question mark. It's this, the U is spelled the letter U, and it's about how like the internet is being convinced into killing other people. And I feel like someone made a good point. There might be something going on the internet about young people convincing people to commit these atrocities, because there's also a femcel, a female incel, who recently did a mass shooting, and she was also quite far right. But yeah,
And apparently they were on the same server,
they were,
the
yeah.
same online server. So there could be adults or other young people who are grooming maladjusted, mentally ill children to kill, which
So I
is a
feel like we're
frightening
talking
thought.
about America. Definitely just want to make it very clear. Definitely doesn't apply to Axel Rudikabana. That monster was going to kill anyways. And I don't even think he had friends online, the Axel guy. I genuinely think that with him.
Yeah, he
Just
was a socially isolated, broken, mentally.
scary mugshot though. I will always go back to that mugshot. I was having, I don't know if it's possible to have nightmares whilst you're awake, but that mugshot was like, I was like, if I'm black and I'm looking at that mugshot, and I imagine how white people are.
Imagine how racists are responding to that image.
What's that? What's that? Imagine how tired we are. Imagine how tired we are of it.
But imagine how tired we are. Imagine how tired we are of it.
I was reading Kemi Badenoch's statement, which was disgusting. After the sentencing of Axel Rudikabana, she used it as a political broadcast. She ended her statement with, "The Conservatives will not avoid hard truths. We are under new leadership. We will support the government to do the right thing. However, we will not hesitate to challenge the Prime Minister on the task he has to ensure that those we welcome into Britain share our values." Now, listen to that last part. Those we welcome into Britain share our values. Axel Rudikabana was born in Britain. He wasn't welcomed into Britain. He was a British-born murderer. But using his case as an example for I don't know, border control, as if you can check at the border if your child is going to be a potential child murderer, is insanity. And I don't know how she was able to get away with that, but a lot of other crazier things were said about this case.
Yeah, Kemi needs to hold that L. Like, I'm like, bitch, that also applies to you. Like, fuck off. Like, if one person's meant to, like, many might argue that she hasn't fully integrated. She's the one who's talking about Northern Nigerians being her ethnic enemies, and I'm like, darling, that is not how British politicians talk in this country. We don't say ethnic enemies out loud. So maybe you need to take that tone back to Lagos.
That's the kind of things our parents say with their hands in stew. That's not something you say when you're the leader of the opposition.
Not around these parts, girl. Like,
Okay, not our parents, other people's parents.
I was about to say, definitely not.
My parents do not have their fingers in stew.
Dad never spoke like that, but with Kemi, it's just Anyways, I'm kind of done with the podcast now, guys. Thank you for
That's a
listening.
good ending.
Yeah, I'm like, Kemi, take that tone back to Lagos.
Go back to Lagos. No.
I won't end it with go back to Lagos. Thank you for joining me, Ladan.
You're welcome.
Alrighty then. Well, bye guys.
Bye.